Hello, everyone. Justin Bakos did a thing this past weekend, getting 22nd with Pure Tier. So, Justin, tell us about the tournament size. Like, how was your experience?
So there's about 215 people. Tournament itself ran pretty smoothly. The only issue was, I believe, normally at 10 o'clock they have you'll start getting round one losses at 10 o'clock if you're not in line. This specific tournament, if you weren't in line before, if you weren't entered into the system before 10 o'clock, then you still got a round one loss. So there were some people that were in line at like 10:45, 10:50, or sorry, 9:45, 9:50, and they still got round one losses.
That's crazy. I've never had an experience like that. Like, they normally let people roll to a little bit after 10 as long as they're on the line, right?
Yeah.
But, so you played Pure Tier. Why'd you choose the deck? And what'd you play against throughout the tournament? I know you had a little tournament report that you do.
Yeah, so I've been on tier for quite a while. I haven't had a ton of testing with the deck itself, but going through the different variants, whether it's Danger, Luna, or Pure, just my own personal experience with past decks, I generally prefer to use decks that are have a really good grind game and just have a lot of back and forth gameplay. And I felt like Danger tier was more of a break my board type situation, and it's not actually as good going second as most people think it is. Pure tier, you just get a lot more interaction points with the hand traps and stuff like Dynamiscus. And High Spirits was actually a really good interaction point too. I can go into later. Otherwise, matchups, I beat Fish in time round one, 2-0. The time wasn't really relevant. I was already up in life and everything. And I beat Branded Dogmatica, Invoked DPE 2-0, round two. Round three, I lost to Dino 1-2. Round four, I beat Maju Castle 2-1. Round five, I beat the Mirror Match 2-0. It was just another pure tier deck with a couple of dangers. Round six, I lost to Branded Despia 0-2. Round seven, I beat 6 Sam FTK 2-0. And round eight, I beat Drytron 2-1.
Yeah, so it seems like you had the hand traps to deal with, Drytrons and Six Sam, right?
Yeah, definitely.
How was the? But it seemed like some of your other matchups, like your rogue matchups, was pretty easy too, right? Like the Maju Castle and the sort of branded DPE deck and the fish.
Yeah, the fish was actually a little bit scary because Kraken control, even though they're popping the tiers, which is normally really bad, just the fact that they float infinitely and they're always burning you always makes time like a worry, especially since I don't play any time cards. And I think even if I did, it wouldn't make the matchup any easier just because they burn so much more than you do. The Maju Castle deck was actually kind of terrifying because when you're playing a back and forth game like the Pure Tier deck wants to do, they can just kill you out of nowhere if you just don't have an answer to the Maju. And they can play around stuff like Imperm Veiler by just setting the Maju, and you never know when you're just going to walk into it and say, "Oh, I lost the game."
Yeah, that's one of the scariest things in Yu-Gi-Oh! Set Grand Maju with like 30 banished cards. But
And
I
the Cyrus
noticed.
in my deck wasn't helping at all either.
Oh yes, you give them some fuel for that with desires.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see that you was able to overcome that. That's a matchup like Joel and Lancia is really good into those, but those aren't very prominent in the format, right?
Oh yeah.
Alright. But
Droll has
I did
actually
notice a
been
few
pretty
things.
insane lately.
Okay. No, I noticed a few things about your deck. That's one to ask a few questions on. Because I feel like everybody knows like Pure Tier by this point, but just wanted to go through some of the niche stuff. So I see, especially after Niagara, some people own like 15 hand traps in the deck. I see you went with 12 with the high spirits. So like, how was that like, for you? You didn't. Why didn't you want to play 15? Why did you want to add in the high spirits still?
So High Spirits is something that I've seen a lot of other decks kind of go to who test. I didn't unfortunately get a lot of testing with it, but I liked the theory of it. So basically, it turns your going first hands much better because you can set the Brandon High Spirits and pitch the tier name during your opponent's turn. I actually lost a lot of my die rolls, so it was actually pretty good going second into Dimension Shifter. So my opponent would drop Dimension Shifter turn one. Then on my turn, I would have High Spirits or Dynamiscus or something else that I could use to discard it for their next turn. And then I'd be able to go through my tier combo on their turn more easily.
Mm. No, that definitely makes sense. I like high spirits. Definitely gets better post Darkling Blast since you don't got to play the unnecessary card that you're never summoning. Um, Yeah, so I also noticed you went with three Ash Blossom over three Valor. So this is something that I did for Niagara simply because I wanted to play a more generic hand trap, even though it wasn't like the strongest hand trap, but it's just good going into a wide open tournament. Is that sort of like the same reason why you played three Ash over just maxing out on Valor?
Yeah, honestly, I think the deck, what it does, is already good enough to beat most of the format. You're gonna have some tough matchups, but just Ash in general having something that's generic and helps you beat Rogue. Because just my own tournament experience, I'm more likely to lose to Rogue than I am to meta. I've just always been strong into meta, but Rogue has never. They always steal games from me somewhere.
Yeah. I think that's what Rogue's like designed to do, right? Steal games from those meta decks. And Ash is a good card because it's going to be good into Dimension Shifter. It's going to hit certain choke points in those Rogue matchups. So usually, I like to have Ash somewhere on my list, but it really just depends on the format, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
Now, this is just one thing too that I noticed. You played Pot of Desires and High Spirits. Now, this has been a talking point for a few tier players that I've tested with. Um, Recently and in past, like doing Pope format, right? So desires being optional in some people's mind if you're playing like a more pure or like a more branded tier variant, and then high spirits obviously being like the new tech, but not mixing them together since they can kind of conflict. Like if you banish maybe an Albion or something, why did you decide to mix the two? And did you have any type of I don't know, like, did it affect you at all in the tournament?
So the theory behind it is Desires is just a good +1. As long as every card in your deck is good and every card in your deck is interactive, like the Pure Tier deck having so many hand traps, the more cards you have, the better it is, whether it's to break boards or to set up your turn one better, or basically just giving you more interaction through stuff like evenly matched. Um, the thing about the high spirits package is either you draw it and you use it right away, or you like set it for your turn. Um, so if you use the high spirits right away, the Albion is always going to be at the bottom of the deck after you use it, so you're never banishing it off your desires. And even if you draw into the Albion, or let's say you draw into Albion and you banish like all three of your high spirits, or you banish two of them, or something like that, you're never really worried about it because it's the same. It's the same theory as like doing desires and then drawing a second desires. Like, why would you play less copies of something that's going to be good?
Yeah. It's really only, I guess, terrible, like in that niche situation where you go desires and then you banish your high spirits, right? And on like maybe you banish your one Albion, which is not high, but it can happen in a 40 card deck, right? But yeah, the way I've been playing it is with both when I have played and tested pure tier. But yeah, it's definitely something to think about. People have different opinions on that. Wanted to hear yours. And then I was curious. Now, these cards I feel like right now is pretty mandatory in the tier deck within some implication of the side or the main, but you aren't playing any evenly matches or any droplets. What's going on there?
So droplets, I don't know like exactly what kind of matchup I'd be wanting to use them into, just because it's not something that necessarily triggers your tiers because you're sending for cost. And just the more advantage you have going back and forth rather than trying to like push through boards in OTK, the better for this list. Something like evenly matched, I had it in my side at one point, but there was just other stuff that I wanted to try to fit in, and I definitely think that evenly is always going to be something I'm going to consider going forward. Just this particular event, I chose not to play it.
Got it. Yeah. Droplets, I know a lot of people on droplets in the tier deck as a way to combat Dweller at any point, right? Because you
Yeah,
had to
that was
have
the
that
other.
duality where if you play Gamma, if you play Imperm as outs, then they can just potentially hold it for the main phase. And if you play Dark Ruler, they can potentially do it on the standby phase. So Droplets kind of gives you a way to combat Dweller. I think that's also why people like some of the runic tier stuff too. Not a lot of people on that, but having
I,
three imperms in the deck that can work anytime.
yeah, I actually have a specific case against Dweller. So there was three different times Dweller got made against me. Pretty much what happened is I'd activate Field Spell, punch over it, and then I'd set either High Spirits or Dynamiscus, and then I'd just play on their turn again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I definitely think it's tough. Depending on like how they set up their board. Like if you have, like if they have a really good board where they're like maybe like super poly and they're able to trigger names on your turn, then that could be tough because you're not getting any value of your names. But I think with playing hand traps, like you're able to simplify the game state, right? So with a point,
Yeah.
the Dweller may not hurt as much.
You're either
So
stopping them from getting a Dweller, or they put so many of their resources just to end on a Dweller, you just break it anyways.
yeah, and then for my final question, like, so you wasn't citing any type of droplets, any type of evenlies, any type of gammas to further like compat like the Dweller and just the tier boards in general. But you cited a tiny Sprite package. Tell me about that and how did that
Yeah.
perform?
So the theory is if you're playing into any kind of mine deck and you know you're going first, you can go through your normal common and have like Kit summon Merly, and you search your smashers and just hold the smashers in hand. So it always gives you kind of a bite back after that goes through. The other thing is it gives you more outs to debarrier. So if you draw any of your Sprite package, or if you're still able to get into like Merly plus Shiren for Elf, you can go through your Sprite combo and then still have like a Smashers as an interruption through a debarrier, or just like try and push for. There was actually a couple cases that I pushed for lethal really weirdly by using Gigantic as just a 3200 body, summoning Merly, and then Merly was like a 1300 body, and Field Spell with Kaleido Heart was actually the last 35, so it was exactly lethal when I was just a little bit short beforehand.
Got it. No, definitely get that. So I haven't tried the tiny Sprite package in the side. I think it's like probably one of main deck it if anything, but I'm glad like it was something that performed well against certain matches for you. Like if was mine ever a problem for you? Because you do have the three paleos and you have the three cosmic in the side.
There was one specific case against Fish where they played it with about 3 minutes left, and that was the only issue. That time was kind of an issue in that game. But even with that, I was able to like consolidate board and set up like Dynamiscus and just have other interaction points that I could hold them off for the last 3 minutes.
Got it.
And I had the Dynamiscus for the mine. So I just let him sit on his own before like
Yeah. So any final thoughts or shout outs?
I definitely think I want to find more space for like Valor, whether it's in the main or the side. And against Flunderies, like I just do not have a good matchup into that at all. I was looking into Ogre, but it's the deck is really tight for how I have it built right now. I don't know if Sprite package is good going forward, whether it's in the side or the main. I do think if you are maining it, you should be playing a bigger package just to get like more advantage off of it. Otherwise, shout outs to No Tier Gaming and my friend Chris for driving on the way there, because I can never drive in the morning, but I'm always completely fine to drive at night.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for joining us and congrats to you, man. Hope to
All right,
see
thank
more
you.
success in the future.
Stand your ground.